Welcome back to 2020, everybody. It's the second week of Hotline League. It's so exciting to be here. It's episode 105. Once again, just a flawless entrance into the show. No tech issues whatsoever. So excited to get into this. Shout out to Alienware for sponsoring the show. We're going to talk about them later. But I'm very excited, first off, to bring back my constant co-host for the 105th episode.
Where'd I go?
We weren't sure about him. Well, yesterday you were.
I got re-upped on my contract.
Yeah, you have a new location. You have a new location, and it's not as fancy as before. It looks like there's a bed or mattress without any sheets on it behind you.
Oh, I just washed the sheets.
What did you? Because this is not your first night in the apartment.
Yeah, I did laundry.
Did you sleep on the dirty sheets the last couple nights?
They're not dirty. They're just like you're supposed to do your bed sheets every 2 weeks.
Yeah, but then you moved. Did you move the bed sheets and then they were dirty and you slept in them after? Because they get dirty when you move them.
Not if you live a block away and you picked them up in your arms and like literally brought them.
A likely story.
I just did laundry. It's not like there's no secret thing here.
We're joined this week by Raz, who is now. What is your official title, Raz?
Academy head coach for Golden Guardians Academy.
Academy head coach for Golden Guardians Academy. That's a long title.
We need more academy in there.
Yeah, okay.
We can find another way of putting an academy.
Academy head coach for Golden Guardians Academy. All right.
I'm the head coach of Golden
Can
Guardians.
You hear my cat sticking his face on my mic stand?
No. We can't even see the cat anymore. So wait, so why can't your webcam? So for those that don't know, Mark moved because he didn't like his neighbor. And you were only in that other apartment for like 5 months, right?
Yeah, we did about half the lease.
Yeah. And now he's in a new place, but the new place he can't move the camera for some reason. Oh, there we go. That works. I thought you said you couldn't do it.
See, look at this.
Oh my God, she's using the mic to scratcher.
It's a boy.
Oh well, look, I haven't been here long enough. Okay.
It's going to be increasingly difficult to hear you, Mark, because the mic will just get pushed further and further away.
I brought it back. Yeah, so I'm using a real setup now, using my girlfriend's. So like the mic stand works, and I bought a tripod a while ago that was like a desktop tripod, and it's a little stiffer with like the angles, but I loosened it up. It works.
I really love that professional content creator Mark has to use his girlfriend's setup to use, quote, a real setup. The other cat's trying to get up there too, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm trying to find him. It's her setup, but like I built everything.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, I want this and this and this. So I was like, all right, so we got a printer, and I set that up.
You see the irony. Wait, you got did you say you got a printer? You're like, all right, we're going to have a professional streaming setup. The first piece of equipment we need is a printer because we're going to be printing out Twitch chat, the donations.
It's not a streaming setup. It's like a home office-y, like productive area.
Gotcha.
That she wanted.
All right. Did you tweet?
And then I was like, why?
Did you tweet yet, Mark?
Oh, I was trying to have you help me with my tweet.
Okay.
200 plus collective years of collective. What do we do?
Yes. Are you aware of this meme, Raz?
Oh my God. Yes, I am.
A Riot designer. So
wait, no. First, help me fill this out.
Okay. With 200 plus collective years of esports broadcast experience, we're coming to you right now.
No, something stupider. Skype show experience.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
200 plus episodes.
So for those of you that don't know about this meme, it is actually one of my favorite memes. I want it to blow up. Please, everyone, start using more of it. But
I mean, it blew up for a little bit. That video got like 300,000 views in like a week.
One of the Riot devs got a message from someone who said Wukong doesn't do enough damage, and he replied and said, "I don't know how to break it to you, but."
No one on the dev team thinks Wukong doesn't have enough damage.
And the guy replied back, I think, or something snarky. And the guy said, like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'll take 200 plus years of collective video game design experience over yours. Which, like, one, I get it. Like, you're using all these ideas like, yeah, we've got a team of people that know what they're doing. I know that you go into solo queue and feel like it's bad, but we've got a bunch of people who do this full time. But just the way he phrased it with the 200 plus
Yeah.
years, it's just like it's so corny.
It's
It
not
was
even
one.
corny. It's just dismissed. Like my biggest thing is, and I know he knows it. I know everyone else knows it. Is that it is literally just not like the balance thing is a balance. Like it's not only is it the play testing, the devs experience, but also listening to the players. Right. That is literally a balance, and they are aware of it. I think the discussion is literally about the fact that he was dismissive about the entire point and experience. So let's not use Twitter. Let's not have wars on Twitter, people.
And then
Let's just
I think. I mean, the whole thing was just like everyone's kind of like in that thread where like no one looks that good, and then fucking Forest Within comes out with the perfect video in
yeah,
response.
Forest Within, who he's a Wukong main, right? Or Wukong one trick?
No, he's
Oh, he's
jungler. He
just
was
an
mostly a
average.
Kindred player, actually.
he's a
Okay.
kindred player. He's literally Forest Within. It's in the name.
I
Travis
mean,
doesn't
that
know
could just be
league
the
lore.
jungle.
No, he doesn't. Travis doesn't know league lore. It's fine.
I used to know League lore, and then they started retconning everything, and I was like, why do I fucking pay attention to this shit? Maybe Arcane.
That's true.
Maybe
It's
Arcane will get me
better
back
now.
into it, but I can tell you about Journal of Justice plots. All right, everybody. So don't tell me I don't know League lore. All right. Anyway, but yeah, Forest Within, who evidently I don't have enough knowledge about to be an expert on this individual, created a YouTube
Excellent
video
streamer.
just memeing all the broken OP shit over the years that there are 200 plus years of collective design experience created. It's pretty good. Shout out to
It's
Nero in the chat,
by the way.
and
Go for it,
to the LaPointe, who is Nicole from EG, who I believe had a Twitter altercation about 4 weeks ago. So we're gonna see if they can get along in Twitch chat. We'll find out. The show continues.
Wait, where can I find this?
I don't know. It was he memed on her or something, and then he replied, or she replied, and then he said something nice back. It was not very exciting or dramatic.
Oh.
Raz, how's North America treating you? Being back home?
It's good. I mean, well, Canada is my home, not U.S.
I said, well, North America is your home. You live in part of that, which is Canada.
Fair, but it's the better part of North America. Anyways,
Jesus Christ, wait, you're living in LA? Come on.
I mean, coming back to North America, I think the biggest change has literally just been the fact that I can communicate and not look like a complete idiot. That has been a constant when I was in China, is that even if I'm putting my full effort into learning the language, any conversation would make me feel like a complete like numbskull. Like yeah, it's sad, but yeah, I think that one's a big one. There's a lot of friends, so now I'm forced to do something rather than just sitting at my home delivering everything. It was a pretty unhealthy life.
Oh yeah,
But
just getting delivery. I
yeah,
never.
I mean, like in China, you can deliver everything, like groceries, obviously clothing. It's better to do that, and so there'd be times where I'd be going out, and that's not so much of an issue. But it's like, oh, well, who are my friends? Because everyone has left. So, like, so that was something. But like coming here and obviously having not only just like my work life, but also community that I consistently communicated with on Twitter and just on social media, anyways, now be on the same time zone is definitely helpful.
I'll turn up Raz, guys. I hear you when you say he's a little quiet, but it's fine. Let me know if that fixed it. No, I mean it's good to have you back here in LA. How did this happen? Were you looking for something, or did GGS reach out? I guess now GG, right? No, not GGS.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, for me, it was mostly I always treat this industry. You guys would know this very well. Kind of like on a short term, like year to year basis. I always focus on having a safety net and a long term strategy. So after the year, I felt pretty damn happy about my commentary and how things were going for me. I guess more personally. Um, but off season is a demon. You never really know. I actually like 3 months before uh, Worlds, I was pretty sure that I was gonna still be commentating in some fashion. But obviously things change and negotiation process goes through, and I was kind of looking through my options and found myself always wanting to be going back into coaching at some point. I mean, that was always been the case, but when I was doing LPL, I was like, well, I'm literally casting 5 days a week and there were conversations of it happening 6 to 7 days, as you guys already know. Like it got changed to LPL got changed to 7 days a week. So I'm literally just never gonna have the time. It was already a challenge back then. So when I realized that I wasn't going to be going back to the LPL, um, I dove into it, asked a few questions, and I definitely, uh, you know, saw the offer and I went straight for it. It was pretty exciting, and honestly, coming into Golden Guardians, I was really shocked at how much the scene has changed. Because back when I was coaching last time,
Yeah.
Game House, like
Because you were at
zero
Dig, for
resources.
those that don't
Yeah,
know.
I was on Dignitas in 2016, I believe, 2016 spring. Um, and I was like, wow, this is pretty ghetto. But right now, it's at least with Golden Guardians, there is so much more resources. Everything is incredibly developed. I'm pretty happy with the situation that I was in. I was really pleasantly surprised.
What's it like for you stepping into Academy?
It's great. I mean, for me, it felt pretty natural because when I was in the LPL, I was doing caster development for a lot of the greener people coming up. So for me, every day was more so focusing not only on myself but on the people around me, like day-to-day goals, getting trackers so people knew what they were working on and being consistent with it. And so going into academy was really, for a lot of the players, it's the same thing because that is the focus, right? It's so much easier because the priorities are a lot more on the development rather than purely on wins. So I think it's definitely a balance, but I was pretty happy with that. It is a big challenge to being on top of the meta, though. So, like, with commentary, you can definitely just watch the teams and just if they show something new, you can explain it away. But especially if you're doing the job, you have to be on top of it or you get burned. So that's one thing that I've definitely realized.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't BS your way through through scrims and stuff.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mark, do you have any questions for Raz? I mean, this is kind of, I don't think, Raz, you've done too much content since you, or interviews or whatever, so it's kind of fun to have you on the show because this is the first time, I think, one of the first times at least, that you've been on camera and talking since you switched
True.
roles.
Yeah.
True.
I'm trying to think of anything interesting I can ask beyond just like stuff about the game.
Yeah.
And because I'm very, it's one of those things where like at the start of every season, I always try and pick people's brains, like going to the final week, like, what are you guys playing? What's looking strong? What do you think the meta is going to be? But I don't think that's really good, interesting stuff for Hotline League, and especially maybe not publicly. Like, what are you guys going to play?
Well, we could ask general questions, right? Like, do you think that we're going to see, is the game going to feel a lot different based off of what you're seeing, like last year to this year? Obviously, they made a lot of changes to the map. I'm just kind of curious from that perspective.
So I think a lot of people has watched the LPL, and I know that the LPL has always had the kind of idea that they're just a hectic region altogether. If you guys saw the most recent games, it's even worse in that better or worse depends on your viewpoint of the game. But yeah, there's always something to fight for. Second Rift Herald is now a thing, so that's something you like for most teams in the, let's say, 10 to 20 minute mark, like 15 to 20 minute mark, where remember in the old meta, there's nothing. If you have to be really good to push the lead that you have early on. So then, like being able to play towards the turrets and inner turrets was something that was a big challenge for a lot of teams that were either poor or average. Um, Now you can just play towards another neutral objective, and Dragon's a little bit better to stack now. Like all of this means that you are more inclined to fight. And literally, the first game in competitive was FPX having a huge lead. IG just stole Elder Dragon, and they just burst. They just insta won after that. So the games are definitely a lot more focused on fighting early on. So I don't think the game has changed drastically on playstyle. It's not a slower game by any mean. It's just more extreme, I think.
By the way, your Skype has the blur background feature on, and it keeps catching
It's
your
great.
hand in the blur, so it just looks like you're flipping the camera off whenever you bring it up on the side, because it's just like, looks like it's censored out
Oh, no.
whatever obscene gestures you're making. By the way,
Oh,
Anero's just shit posting in the chat right now. What's it like working with Anero? Or do you work with him
Nero's
at all?
hilarious.
Do you guys talk
I
about
love
stuff?
him. So like before even working with him, it was always fun to have conversations with the guy because the level of sarcasm he has, and the man doesn't know fun. He's actually the same person in every environment. So like it's super fun because he's always like I don't want to say he's always serious, but he's definitely somebody you can bounce ideas off of.
I mean, he tweeted, I think, on New Year's Eve and was like, "Imagine going out to celebrate New Year's Eve." They're just like, it's like, thanks, great, Nero. You're a real fun guy. Love to have you
Oh
around.
my god.
So kind of hopping back to your point about the game being faster or not,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when people say that because a lot of times I think maybe a fan would think that when you say faster, you're meaning actual game time. But I assume you're actually meaning more like pace of
Like more
the
action.
game. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, because I think that's what's interesting. I always like when there's kind of big, powerful, neutral objectives. Like I didn't hate in season 3 and season 4 when Gold gave or Dragon gave Gold, and it just forced people to have fights at like every 6 minutes. Sometimes it can be a little boring if that means that people don't do anything in the downtime and they just wait for all their flashes to come back up and stuff like that. But I think with the other changes to vision that have come through and stuff like that, I doubt it would be that way. So I like having strong objectives for like structured 5v5s and things that matter.
Yeah, I mean, and slowly the game has turned into that, right? Like Scuttle Crab existed, and then they put an insane amount of experience on it, so it was a point that you had to contest. Like every aspect of the game, um, from season 4 up until this point, has really pushed teams to fight. Um, it's helped out the LPL, that's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's making the game, I think, fun to watch as a viewer.
Nice. Well, I'm excited for how things get. I mean, obviously, we're starting to see games match up, start up in different regions, but we'll see LCS kickoff in just about a week and a half. So that'll be fun for sure. Speaking of that, Mark and I were trying to figure out what to talk about on this week's episode because there's basically been no new developments in the past week, even though we are doing this on Tuesday instead of Monday, in part because Mark was moving. Yeah, that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah.
So-
I totally was not ready.
Yeah,
So thank you, Travis. You're so gracious to give me an extra day.
you're welcome. Anyway, I think we're just trying to, some of the things that we can talk about maybe are, one, we'll do open mics. So if you've got some thought or take on League of Legends esports, feel free to throw it in, and if it's interesting, Mark will grab it. And I guess the new season cinematic came out. That was kind of cool. Talk about that. Actually, really quickly, what do you guys think of the new cinematic? I feel like it was almost a little too
Talking about
similar. Warriors
Yeah, okay.
with like Garen and Lux and crew. Did you see
You
it?
feel like it was
Raz?
a little too similar to what?
I feel like it was a little similar to last year's cinematic. What Awaken?
Awaken.
Yeah.
Is that the one with
Yeah.
Lucian?
No, that's Rise, I think, or the Climb.
The
The
Climb?
Climb is the one with Lucian.
The Climb. All
Last
right,
year's
The
one
Awaken
was the one with
Aurelia.
Riven and Draven fighting in the
Had
arena.
Aurelia
Oh,
versus
I remember.
Sion. Then it
Yeah.
had Camille versus Jin, which was the cool fight.
So I liked the cinematic a lot, but
Mhm.
it was interesting to me because I was like, this feels kind of like the same formula they used last year, where it's like, good guys fighting. Oh no, here's the bad guys. Looks like they might lose. And then the good guys rally at the end into an epic run at each other type battle. And what was very fascinating was when somebody posted on the subreddit a thing where they took the Awaken song from last year and stuck it on the Warrior cinematic from this year. And almost simultaneously, all the musical beats match up with what you're seeing on the screen, which only kind of helped further my opinion
So
that this was like so very similar.
I think that's the where I felt that the most was after the first chorus, and it went into kind of like the sound effecty drum, kind of like doosh 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 doosh, and it's more cinematic music than it is real music,
Yeah.
And those two, and I think Awaken had a part like that too in it, and they felt really similar then. I did like Warriors more. I admit that I enjoyed when the chorus came in the first time. I was like, oh shit, this is actually really good. And I think I like this. I think I liked it overall more than Awaken. I thought the fights looked cooler than like Aurelia just kind of looked kind of random, just like throwing her blades around.
Yeah, but
Jhin
like
and-
Lux
Jhin and
hops
Camille
up,
was sick.
ults the sky, Galio lands, and then like that's it. It was kind of
That's. Do you know the lore?
yeah.
Back in the
Well,
lore.
I think originally Galio was supposed to be a Poppy assistant, but again they retcon everything. So
So
I actually really loved this one because they really fleshed out some of the characters. I'm somebody that like when I first started playing the game, I played like the character that I loved, like aesthetically and also I guess thematically. I just haven't read the lore up until after that video because
yeah,
after the video where they were fleshing out Silas as a character, and I was like, who the hell is Garen fighting? Why is it not like Noxus? Why is it Silas? I have no idea. That makes no sense to me. So then I read the lore and I was like, wow, that's actually first of all the lore is pretty damn good. I just won't put in the time into it because priorities and all that.
yeah.
Also, I mean, I think it was really strong if you know the lore. Otherwise, it's just characters fighting each other.
Which is still fine.
Yeah, I liked it personally.
Yeah, I think where you would lose someone is when Lux shoots her ult in the sky and Galio comes down. If you don't know the lore there, that doesn't really make sense at all. Whereas at least like the other ones, you're like, oh, people are fighting. Cool.
I could pay attention to the lore for the cinematic, but they'll retcon it in 2 years anyway, so then it won't even.
It's good now. Back then, it was trash.
I disagree.
It's you think it's bad?
Where are my summoners?
Oh yeah, of
And
course.
what are we fighting on? Huh? What's the overall like? Why are we fighting? At least before there was a point, you know. Summoners brought warrior. It was basically Fate Zero or Fate Stay Night, which was dope. You know, you just summon warriors from across time and history. You put them in a ring, and the summoners, for some reason, are fighting in the fields of justice, and they're fighting on their behalf. And now I'm like, I have no idea why anyone is in this arena.
We have Jackie Collins and Brian Kibler in the Twitch chat right now. Brian Kibler.
Most importantly, talking about Shiro instead of
no, Jackie Collins I think gave an official statement from Riot because she's for those that don't know, Jackie does PR for the game over there. She said Lux didn't ult the sky, she woke up Galio. Galio must be he's a heavy sleeper.
She altered the sky to wake up Galio, right? Because he gets awoken by magic, and she was like, "Pia." Right?
Imagine if in the game Galio could only ult when somebody else uses their ult.
I will say this though about me knowing Silas lore now because I logged into live, and then suddenly Silas has a new Freljord skin. So it was right. That was smart. Cool. They're smart about this. They're like, you know what? Here's a skin.
All right. So anyway, now that we're moving on from Hotline lore,
summoners and.
So anyway, back to what we were talking about. So the cinematic came out, and then I'm looking at Reddit right now, but it's all just clips of people's streams. So that doesn't work.
Can we talk about that? I'm actually happy that's back.
No, we can't talk. If that's your stance, we can't talk about it.
No, we're talking about it, dude.
Oh, the format changes got officially announced. It's funny because we've talked about them so often on the show that I completely forgot that now we officially know them. So Monday Night League. So Saturday, Sunday, LCS games with one Academy game after each. They're doing like a red zone type thing, so you can watch multiple Academy games at once. Because let me tell you, if you weren't interested in watching one Academy game, just wait until you can watch random parts of multiple Academy games all at once. That's going to be sick. No offense to the Academy coach in the call. And then on Monday, we're going to have 3 Academy games and 2 LCS games. And the future of Hotline League is uncertain right now. We're hoping we can do it after those LCS games. But if not, we might do it on Tuesdays. We're still going to do the show. I shouldn't have said something so dramatic as the future of the shows, but we're not sure what the schedule is going to be. So we'll have to figure that out.
We're going to wait and see. We'll have to figure it out too.
So we can talk about that. I can't wait for the callers to call in talking about how excited they are about multiple Academy games all at once.
I have a bunch of callers already lined up.
That was actually. Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully, maybe if you have a strong statement, Mark will still pull you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we have everyone for the night, but I wanted to grab people as I saw them.
But it was hard because Greeley called me and gave me an official brief. So so last week at the end of the show, I went on a huge rant about how frustrated I was that the schedule wasn't out, and the commissioner of the league, Chris Greeley, was in the chat as I was doing this, And what people didn't know was that I was super unsure about doing it because I'd been planning on doing it. Then he shows up with a chat, and what I couldn't say on the show was that I had an officially embargoed call with him the next day. Scheduled.
Wait, you were complaining with that in your
Yeah,
back pocket?
I'm knowing he's gonna call me
Oh.
tomorrow in the morning. I'm just hard flaming Riot for not releasing the schedule yet. And I had a call with him the next day where he was gonna
Scumbag.
officially brief me on the changes. So I hop on the call with him, and I'm
Great timing.
He's like, "Yeah, good to talk to you, Travis." And
And then they released it like Wednesday.
yeah, they released it. I mean, but still, I still think it was bad. I stand by everything I said in that show, knowing that they were going to release it later in that week. But it's funny because we had that, and then he's like, "Yeah, and then we're going to do this like Red Zone Academy thing on Fridays," and I'm like, "Great, can't wait for that, Commissioner Greeley." But anyway, so we've got the schedule out. I don't know if you pulled any
The
calls
moral
for
of the
that.
story is Travis is a whiner.
It's true.
I didn't see any.
One thing I
We
will
kind
say
of talked
about
about it.
I don't know who's gonna be casting that, but it reminded me of when I was casting in the LPL, and games would be happening at the same time, and you just, oh, it's like, oh, this game's done. We're hot dropping 15 minutes into the other game.
Well, Mark would do
You
that
just
on
have to.
on the desk, right? The analyst desk.
Oh, did you do that?
No, we wouldn't do like hop drops.
Well, you would do whenever you guys had two streams going, one game would finish, you'd be talking about it, and then
yeah, I
like
see what you're...
you talk about it for several minutes, and then you'd have to be like, okay, guys, the other one is coming in. The other game just finished, and yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
starting from the beginning, right? Rather than just going 20 minutes into the game.
Yeah, no. So like we would catch the end of every game, but we wouldn't. We might miss the beginning, but we wouldn't like
Okay, that's
hand
fine.
the stream off to a game that was already going on. We never
Yeah.
did that.
That's fine then.
Kibler says he's going to go to a bunch of the Monday night games, so maybe they'll be popular for locals.
Well, the problem is you can't buy tickets to the Monday night games.
Oh, they're not open for the public?
So they're going to do like special nights where they give people free tickets to come. So they'll do like they said like a collegiate night or a high school night, or I don't know what other nights. They mentioned a couple. Maybe it's
washed up Magic player night.
Yeah,
Tom Martell can go then.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm just playing.
Frank
know why
Kibler
they
never
said they're
shows.
washed
He
up.
shows
I don't
up rarely to the show, and you're gonna just be mean to him. It's kind of a dick
I don't know.
move, right?
Why am I being told to yell? Is my mic okay?
Your mic's fine.
It's a little quiet.
It's quiet?
It's a little quiet, but it's fine.
Monday games will continue to be held in front of a live audience, but tickets are not available for public sale. Maybe that's what they mean. Maybe it's just going to be Brian and his dog in the audience. And it's technically a live audience because those people are alive and they're in the audience. So maybe that's their plan.
That'd be a fun cats and dog night. Just bring your pet to work day.
Yeah.
They're running around the stage. Cats are jumping on laps when you're gaming. Get a real at-home experience.
Okay. Well,
Oh, is this good now?
yeah, it's great.
It's almost been an hour. We should probably take a fucking caller.
Jackie just needs to turn her volume up. Can we take a caller,
All right.
Mark? Come on, what are you doing here? Let's get going. All right.
All right.
Try to host a
I'm not
show
gonna do
here.
the whole spiel. Join there. You'll figure it out. Okay, there's your spiel. I'm gonna go get someone.
Really phoning it in tonight. Let's see. Couple of subs. Hype Love Shack. Thank you for the 16 months. X Adam X. Your boy Graph. Linoleum Bonaparte. Insulin shots. So many things for 23 months. Almost 2 years. Stahil. Anero also for 23 months. Come on, go with it. Always Salty with the 1500 bits. NA Alistar for 15. Kylo Zen for 13. And looks like we've got our first caller. Welcome back to the show, Rico Suave. It's been a bit, I feel like.
It has been.
Remind me again where you're calling from. I want to say like Midwest somewhere.
No, bro, New York City. Come on.
New York. That's right. I forgot. Sorry. I apologize. I don't know
You
what.
think Rico Suave would be from the middle
Why
of the
are you
country?
thinking he's gonna be in the Midwest?
Do you have a name like that in the middle of the
Can
country?
we go 5 minutes on the show without mocking the host? Anyway, Rico, welcome back. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about how the LCS Academy team should have a limit to how many vets and imports they should have in a team. One of the primary examples I want to use is the Dignitas Academy team.
Okay, go ahead.
So currently right now, the Dig Academy team, you have Larlo, Acadian, Demonte, Phoenix, and Ole. And the three reasons why I'm bringing this up is because I think that one, this is just making the LCS teams very lazy when it comes to producing NA talent. Having a limit will give upcoming players a chance to obtain experience, and recycling old players who aren't as good anymore does not help the league or them.
So here's a counterpoint to you, Rico, before I cede the floor to our academy coach and Mark here. But I interviewed Parth over the break whenever they were building out their roster, and I think I asked him, I forget how the conversation came, but maybe I asked him about his academy roster, and he said one of the things that academy rosters allow you to do is have your LCS team scrim them. So he mentioned that Broken Blade really wanted a great partner to scrim against in the top lane, and so that was one of the things that they tried to secure for him. So I think, and also sometimes these players are looked at as alternative options that you can sub into LCS. You can make like 10-man roster essentially with it. So I would worry about losing that opportunity to potentially make our LCS team stronger by giving them great in-house scrim partners by switching over to a lot of rookies.
Can I say a point on this as well,
Yeah, I
or
was gonna
does
say-
he?
Go for it.
I think the entire idea of academy, I don't like the name academy personally. Like for instance, the LPL is not the LDL is called the League of Legends Developmental League. Developmental for me makes more sense because the idea of taking players who are going to be better, who are just better, they're chosen because they are better players than, let's just say, someone who is up and coming that was probably going through what's it called? I'm trying to remember what you guys use to kind of get them into the
Scouting grounds.
process, like
Scouting
the whole
grounds?
drafting. Yeah, scouting ground. Like if there's a promising scouting ground player, I'm confident that that player would find a place in the what's it called, academy. But I think people's perception of academy is incorrect. That it's about development of those players. A lot of players in the LCS and academy, uh, you know, require that development, require the time to develop. It's on the organizations to look at some players and say, we either have faith or we don't have faith that you can move up into the main team. And it's on those organizations to make that call. For us to say, to put a hard stamp on the league and say, no, because you've been in the LCS, you cannot partake in this system is crazy to me. And I have faith that in the example that you use, like Lorlo, if he is in a good environment, which I don't know too much about Dignitas, but I'm confident that the environment would be fine for him, then he can be put in an LCS team and be thriving. All right, it's really just as important as being in a right environment, having the right coach, being in the right frame and mentality, and taking that step back. He's proven himself to be on that team. If the question is, oh, he has a larger name brand, and that's why he's there, then I mean, that's on the organization. That's going to be obvious if they start losing for that reason. Like public opinion is going to continue to be there, and I don't think we should take a step back from that. A good example for me is like we have Gorka that did really well in scouting ground, is now on the academy team, is performing quite well, and a lot of the players around him, the veteran players, are also developing in a great way. Now, the question I think a lot of people will have is like, what's the next step? Are they going to go into the LCS? And that's another discussion altogether because the LCS is more of an international league than it is a North American league. Uh, so I think that's a wider discussion. But for me, I think that academy really is about development rather than it is, hey, let's throw more players that don't have experience onto the scene just for the sake of it. Rather than having them challenge for positions with other players.
By the way, I know
I,
Raz's mic is popping a lot. This is what happens whenever we have people in the Twitch chat advise
Oh no.
our people on how to do stuff with their mic. Thanks a lot, Jackie. Go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say, there's obviously a lot of nuance to it where you don't want, like Raz is saying, to just grab players who aren't ready for academy and just being like, yeah, we should grab them because they're not older or they haven't played LCS before. But at the same time, when you have 5 players who have pretty substantial LCS time,
Mhm.
I'm looking at what they're really trying to do with that. And like, honestly, maybe it is like you're saying, like the Broken Blade situation where they want a lot of players who are competent and can scrim well, and they're going to go for some 10-man rosters or something. Who knows if that's the case. Otherwise, to me, I do wonder, like, where is the development other than just giving players a place to play, because everyone wants to play. If it's between grinding solo queue like Alltech had to do before getting back onto a team, or playing an academy, I think pretty much everyone's going to take the paycheck. So from a player perspective, I get it, but from an org perspective, I don't really know what they're doing other than, like we said, a 10-man roster, or maybe buying out, obviously somewhat valuable players to be able to flip them potentially between spring and summer. Some of these guys like DeMonte or Lorlo, even Phoenix or Ole could become valuable assets to a team in summer that needs to patch up a hole that they have or something. But otherwise, it's not like your situation you're talking about with Gorico, a player who hasn't played in the LCS, playing alongside veterans to make sure he's not overwhelmed or something, which is a totally super important use for veterans in the academy development system. You need people who can help develop those players, and oftentimes other players are that. But when you have 5 experienced guys who are all seemingly playing just to get their shot back into the LCS, it does feel like, at least that's what it looks like, it feels a little weird to me.
And for me, I think there are 2 things about it. Like I kind of put the ownership on the owners and organizations, because
Yeah.
it really is a different case for every org. Like there was the Optic case that literally was using it as a 10-man roster, and then there's the Team Liquid case that are like, yeah, we're never using anyone.
They didn't care at all.
Exactly. So like it really is on those orgs to really find a meaning for that system, and I think that's okay. To the point that you made is, yeah, I think it always comes down to some players. Like if a player has substantial time in the LCS and then they finally get pushed down to academy, you put yourself in that player's position, it's a reality check. Because if they don't play well in academy as well, if they have the same issues they had in the main team, then who's ever going to take that player? Like that's a real question. Maybe there's going to be another team that's like, oh, he's a good streamer or something, but then that player is almost like, I'm not going to, like, damaged goods is probably the worst words for it, but like that's the point,
Yikes.
right? That no one's going to take a chance on the player.
Known quantity.
But like
maybe?
that's the thing. I think that is a made up problem, because if those players perform poorly now on Dignitas or whatever team we may be speaking on, like even on Golden Guardians Academy, then all those players recognize that like that's a big chance for them. That's a second chance, and if things fail, then they really don't know what's going to be next. So I think people are making a big issue out of it, when I do think there's real value in a developmental league.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Rico.
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is having like 3 slots, one being an import, the other one being a veteran slot, and then the third one being like a flex one. You can either fill it with an import or a veteran, so you still have like what you mentioned, Raz, about old veteran players coming, helping out with the main roster, as well as also have 2 slots where you can actually develop NA talent.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think that's just happening naturally. There are quite a few teams already that have made that shot or made those chances. Like the SM Academy has like that new mid laner, and it's basically every team has that. And also, I'm pretty excited personally of seeing the Australian players come into the scene, because that is going to make North America strong, rather than just focusing on the players who are born in North America.
I mean, citation needed on that one. It might make North American or NALCS stronger, or North American.
Yeah, but overall, the idea of expanding a talent pool that you have access to is something I'm in favor of. The whole North American League for so long has had imports that it doesn't feel weird to have imports in Academy to me. People who want it to be only for North America or something, I think just need to come to grips with like the reality of our ecosystem compared to others. We're not Europe or whatever that has like 10 leagues for each country, and you have the French league and the English league or whatever, and the Spanish league and stuff. We don't have that. So this is how we're widening our pool.
So I went ahead and stuck I found the wiki page for the Academy League rosters for this year. So it looks like
Yep.
the only, and so that we could actually look, because your suggestion is, Rico, that you want to see 3 veterans and or import players and 2
Max.
and 2 rookies. But it looks like going down the line, Dig is the only one that's not doing that, right? I don't see anything
Yeah.
where there's too many people who have been.
Travis,
Yes.
are you looking at Golden Guardians Academy?
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Well, I mean, a Blaze Olive and Gorica.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think is
Exactly.
fine.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair then.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe the
Wait,
next
is that whole
closest is
team
actually
except for
Ian.
who he Canadian?
Yeah. Team Canada, and we have a French section to the east.
I just
who
realized
he-
that. That's actually hilarious. I noticed it as I saw all the Canadian flags, including one next to you, Raz, and then who he's the only one that's not. That's funny. Okay. Well, anyway, no. I
would say
mean, I think
would probably
people would say Goric and a Blaze Olive are fit that.
Yeah, but here's my thing. I think people are quick to criticize again, right? Because to the point about a Blaze Olive who hasn't had that opportunity for an LCS team who should, because he's an incredible performer. Just because he has a track record, people are wanting new players in front of him. And I think that's all, like, no matter what sport, no matter like what situation you're in a competitive environment, if someone has a track record, then someone's like, what about this new guy that has literally nothing but has all this imaginary potential, right? I think people need to be a lot more realistic. And I'm not saying that never take a chance on the potential. I'm just making a case for, please, just because someone has any track record, let's just not thrust people above them. And I think that's what I think is a constant in not only this community, but literally any community that I watch NBA, and that's a conversation every time.
Yeah, I think even last year there were maybe some more standouts. I felt like of people kind of just stuffing their rosters with what feel like padding, for lack of a better word. But I feel like looking over these quickly doesn't feel quite as extreme.
Yeah, I feel like
as
it's only
last year.
Dig that's like the offender, which is what that was the one that you mentioned, Rico. But I mean, are you concerned that this is a bigger problem than just the one team?
Well, not a bigger problem now, but solve it now before it does become a bigger problem, because it'll be a matter of time before we have other current LCS players.
Well, we don't know that. I
going
mean, what
down
if
to-
next year it's only like what if next split, even in summer split, maybe Dig makes changes and then their academy team isn't it, right? Like it could go in the other direction too.
Well, and also, if it's a bad idea what they're doing, it should, in some sense, hopefully self-regulate. Like, let's say this is a bad idea. They can't sell any of their players for any money. They're not really that valuable of scrim partners, and they're not developing any new talent. That should be enough of an incentive not to do that again, I guess, for the org, hopefully. And if they are getting value out of it, then to Raz's point, the org has done something that they can at least argue was worthwhile for them.
So in Twitch chat, the user Neon Vana says very angrily, it feels like, why does Huhi need to be playing support in fucking academy when you're trying to develop future talent? Raz, would you like to address this?
Yeah, Hui's actually a fucking good support. And I think once again, if we're talking about development, he turned into a new role as a support, and no one has given him the opportunity to play and actually have time on that role. So once again, I know that as a fan, and I'm not going to attack anybody in particular, because as a fan, we all feel this way. Like, I'm just going to say, I know as in a perspective as a fan, you wonder why a player who has a track record is, is being given an opportunity. And that's, for me, everybody who works with Huhi, people who have worked with Huhi, says great things about him. I've worked and seen with how he's performed as a support. Not only is he developing incredibly quickly, but I think he is a big positive point. And so that's another challenge to the community. If you're a fan of Golden Guardians, give him a shot, give him a chance. Literally be patient, watch the games. Like, that's what you should be doing. If you're not, then I don't know what to say to you. I would say, going back to the point that I had made originally, just because the person is a veteran, has been around in the scene, there is value, and you can develop. You can get better at what put you in that position to begin with.
Good. Well, hey, Rico, anything you want to say on the way out as we move on to the next caller?
Shout out to Alienware. Thank you guys for letting me on, and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for
too,
shouting out
bro.
the sponsor. It's always nice. All right. Moving on.
Next caller.
To
You
the
wanna
next
do
caller. No, we can. Yeah, we can do one more caller, and then we can do because we started
Okay.
pretty late. So.
Yeah.
All right. As we are moving on to the next caller, I want to give a shout out to some more subs. Thank you first off to everybody who's a sub. Nuko111, Rico Suave, who was just on, Kylo Zen, NA Alistar, Proximate Galaxy, Smillsap917, Case Blin, Alex Shepard gifted a sub to Raz. That was very nice of him. Laziness, Kawi, So Serious, Team Corgi Mid. And it looks like we've got our next caller here, Ventus Official. Ventus, you've been on the show before, right?
I have, yes.
A couple times, maybe.
Yeah, a few.
Maybe I'm just used to reading out your name. Last time you had a different mic setup, I'm guessing. Is that possible?
Yes, I did. Why is my Discord audio out of whack?
I had you at 200%. So congrats on the new mic upgrade. We're learning a lot as the caller enters.
You sound great.
Remind me.
You know, I was so inspired from last time that I thought I had to upgrade.
Great. Well, I'm glad. Hopefully, yeah. Well, anyway, where are you calling from?
Washington D.C. area.
Somehow I thought that was it, but I was worried I was getting you mixed up with Dr. Manhattan. Anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So I want to talk about how Evil Geniuses has the best branding in NALCS and possibly League history, and maybe just esports.
Jesus.
And yeah,
this is an extreme take. Did you say in history?
Yeah, so far.
Okay, the best branding in all the history of esports.
LaPointe or whatever, pay this guy off.
Yeah, Nicole's in the chat. This is clearly part of her evil genius plan. Okay, so break it down for me. Why are they the best of all time?
Okay, so they have a really, really strong brand identity. Going with the whole Evil Geniuses thing. They have a brand identity in the first place.
I will agree that puts them up above 50% of the league.
Yes. And I think they have their brand identity is clear. Like if I think about TL, I feel like they have a brand identity mainly because of like a legacy kind of, but I don't really know what they're going for. Or if
Water
I think of
and
100
horse don't go together naturally in your brain.
You know, ironically, you would think that, but like no. It's weird, I know. But like 100 Thieves, right? They kind of did the same thing with EG, where they came into the league with a really strong brand identity. They told everybody what they were all about, and then when they were 10th in LCS, weren't they ranked like 4th in Team Pass, even though they were losing almost every single game, just because they had such a huge fan base,
such fire merch,
and merch. Yeah, they did have fire merch, or do. But so aside with having a brand identity, if you look at what the identity is, so they're like playing off the whole evil genius things. So if their players or anything like that are, I don't know, shit talking on Twitter or starting up controversy, like light controversy, but for League, we don't have any. They're just being part of their brand. Like if someone on TSM, if Bjergsen was to start shit talking someone or anyone on TSM, I guess Dardoch, but you would be like, oh, this is interesting. But if it's someone on EG, you're like, well, yeah, of course, he's on Evil Geniuses. It's part of their branding. They're the evil people in League, you know? So they kind of get a free pass to start shit talking, to start having, I bet their interviews will be really interesting, and they can like spice things up.
But it's okay,
but I think
Mark, just say what I was about to say.
I think we're gonna say the same thing, which is like that's great in theory, but you're gonna put a mic in front of their face. They're gonna do some of this light shit talking, maybe, or they won't even try it, and then they'll like go on a losing streak, and people will meme everything they just said, and they'll stop. Not everything works out as well as the like Acadian we will smurf soon. Most of the time, people just get shit on. So like, I think you're right that the brand does give them a little bit extra leeway, but I don't think the players will use that leeway at all.
I hope they do. I bet you're probably right. It's maybe here and there you'll see it, and it might not even be this season. But let's say if you switch TL and EG, you switch their rosters, right? Same staff, whatever. And Team Liquid is under the Evil Genius branding. Think about all the doors that opens up. First, or old TSM, right? Half the league, probably more than half the league, hated TSM because they're winning so much, right? They were the villains of League. But now, if Evil Genius in like the next few years, it doesn't have to be this season, but just any time in the future, becomes a dominant team, they are now the villains of League of Legends. And that goes exactly with their branding, like the Patriots or the Yankees, just like how TSM was, or any other iconic team, except for now, when people are hating on them, it feeds into their branding. Like, if anytime people are like, oh yeah, like I'm so sick of seeing EG win, blah blah blah, they can, instead of being like, oh man, like, oh, it's, whatever, we have our fans, they're like, no, yes, bring in the hate because we are the evil geniuses. Like, you are feeding our brand. So I don't think this season, maybe not even this year, it might be far into the future, but if they can somehow cement a dominant roster and start winning a lot, their branding, like the difference between a TSM or a TL winning a lot and EG winning with their branding, like they can do so much cool stuff with their merch. Like, I feel like it's just such a strong identity
It
to
sounds like
become
you're
the
saying they have a
villains.
really strong baseline to start with, because like
Yeah.
because like TSM, like it literally just the name are just initials. Team Liquid, we've talked about like water and horse and stuff like that. So I get what you're saying, where they come in with a strong baseline just in literally in the name.
Yeah, but
All right, let me.
Yeah,
I just
Raz,
wanted
go
to.
ahead.
My big thing is, I think so I would agree on theme. Team theme for sure. Like Toronto Raptors, Golden State Warriors. Like that's a theme that you can cling on, that you can kind of see what the team is from the get-go, no matter what player is there. But then that differs from personality. Personality branding is for players and really players only. Because EG made the huge risk of having a personality branding that just depends on if the players want to
Well,
do it or
okay,
not.
well I would
And then
dispute that.
but wait.
Go
But
ahead.
like if the players, like for instance, to the point about success, like if they're not successful and they don't talk as much, and then those issues can come in line, then like personality branding without the players really being the forefront of that is an issue to me.
I mean,
Go on.
the counterpoint to that though is like TSM. I feel like so many people think of that brand as Reggie or Andy,
Yeah.
right? Like, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the players that are pushing it. And I would actually say, if I was running a team, I would not push my branding as something that needs to rely on the players, because players are ephemeral. Like, they're here one season and gone the next. But
wait a
go
minute.
ahead.
Reggie was a player, and it started the whole Bay Life personality branding.
yeah, but like
And then you
Noah
moved on.
was
Yeah, go
Immortals
on.
brand.
Yeah.
Noah was what Immortals was. Steve, yeah, he was a player, but let's be honest, the whole paid by Steve things and those stuff, all that came out way after he was a player.
That's true. It doesn't have to be a player. It can be someone there who's on the forefront. That it's a person, not necessarily a player. So if you don't have a person that it's out there that is willing to push that branding through content or whatever you're trying to achieve, then I think it's a failure right from the get-go. But I love the idea that you mentioned though, which is the theme. Right now, if TSM was separated from this, legacy, then TSM means nothing, because like it really started with this whole Bay Life thing, and now it's the legacy that's really like a major focus, right? And Team Liquid is because they're just winning, and the money, I suppose, like paid by Steve, is a huge one.
Yeah, but
But go on.
I think like the whole name of what a brand is like a little too shallow of a take for me.
Mhm.
Like the Raptors. Does anyone fucking follow Toronto Raptors because they like dinosaurs?
I did
You
when
know?
I was a kid.
I never gave a shit.
I was a
as
wee
kid.
child. All right.
I watched the Celtics, and I didn't even know what a Celtic was. It's Celtic,
Alright.
really. Like, like what is that
Yeah,
name even?
fair.
Like the Patriots. no one's like, oh, I love Minutemen and freedom, I guess, or like tea parties and trashing the British. So the Patriots, you know, like you latch onto a team for other reasons, and like that comes down to content you're putting out, promotional things, players, success, stuff like that. I think is way more important than like we have the title Evil Geniuses. So like if they actually play into that, like you're saying, if Nicole is out there always shit talking other teams and like all their videos are kind of memeing what it's like to be an evil genius, I think that does a lot more than just the name, because like Team Liquid is a stupid horse thing, but like they killed it with like the paid by Steve memes. Even before that, they were always pushing like what content looked like in the esports space with like Breaking Point, and before that, they were the first ones to do like well, they weren't the first ones. TSM did the docu-series stuff too, but TL added a little bit more cinematic flair to it.
They were, I think, the first ones to have like a facility too, which I think also helped them. And
yeah,
push
Steve has always been trying to level up, and then like 100 Thieves, they came in and they had that kind of streetwear branding, and then they went with it. And
Nadeshot was like a very visible front man.
Dude,
for
the McDonald's story, the McDonald's story about hustling and like nothing's ever handed to you, and like the name 100 Thieves is kind of dumb and everyone kind of laughed at it, but like when Nadeshot is in front of you charismatically and emphatically telling you why it's a dope name, you're kind of like, yeah, that is a dope name. You have to take everything you want and give 100 every day, you know? And
I mean, a great example of this is
all that stuff comes together.
A great example of this is G2. Sorry, Raz, I know you went out right after.
No worries.
Is G2. Their name started as Gamers 2 because they had a weird sponsorship with like a random ass peripheral company that now Carlos is kind of like seemingly ashamed to, like, he was showing me around his offices and he's like, there's a Gamers 2 jersey up there, and you could tell that he loved having the Gamers 2 jersey up there because like, oh look, we've been a team for this long and here's one of our jerseys, but also he hated that it said Gamers 2. So that they shortened it to G2. They have like no name or brand, but they now rival and in some ways surpass Fnatic in Europe, even though they're a much younger organization, just because they've been able to, like, their social voice has, like on Twitter and stuff, has been able to do so much in their content.
Super funny. They're memeing all the time.
They're like, I remember they did the rap video thing with like Sven, I think, like kissing the golden necklace. Like they were able to build a really strong brand for themselves over time without the name. And I will say that it feels like EG is like headed in a good direction based off of what they've done so far.
But so the point that I was going to make, which was like, I agree with what Mark said, and I think that like the point of what the call is kind of about is that there are two things there. The first thing was there is the team branding, like the themes that will get people becoming a fan of them naturally, that's not tied to the players. And then there is the most important thing, which is the player branding and the personality that the players have, right, like naturally. So if EG comes in with this branding of just being like shit talkers, and then they have players that are not shit talkers, then that's not a successful branding. That's not what you're going for.
Well,
so yeah, and that's why, like, to your point, like about NFL, like, yeah, you're right. If you're a Patriots fan, it's not about the Patriots necessarily. It's about like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and the success around that. That's incredibly important. So it's about the people that are in the organization and also the theme that gets you in to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots just basically became synonymous with like business, like, because Bill Belichick goes into that fucking press conference and just shits on all the reporters and like he's all like, do your job and blah, and that's like the whole culture around them now. So I totally agree with your point. My only problem with that is that the caller says that they already have the best brand ever.
Yeah.
And
have for all time.
Like, they have a great baseline, you know, like I'd be like, you're right, they have a great baseline, but Ventus came in hot.
Yeah, Ventus, Ventus, are you basing this only off of their league stuff? Because obviously they do stuff in other games, and like they basically were on life support as a Dota team for 5 years, I feel like.
I probably should have reworded it to like they definitely have the best baseline or the best theme, but I mean, you know, I got to make it a hot take, so
appreciate it.
But at least they're being honest about it, because I love it. Callers always come in with like a very strong thing, like, I think Pole Belter's actually the best mid laner that's ever existed in all of life, you know, and then we have a conversation. They're like, actually, I should have said during the spring season of 2016, he showed great dominance in his lane. But anyway, sorry, go ahead, Ventus.
Well, but actually, most of it was based on because I've heard of evil geniuses before in other games. I think Counter-Strike. I don't really follow CS as much now. I do actually because of 100 Thieves. I became a crossover fan.
StarCraft was a good one for me. It was when I discovered EG.
Yeah, that was when EG and
say
TL were
StarCraft.
like the first two teams I knew when I started following StarCraft. That's where they were.
Mhm.
StarCraft and Dota were their big things, I think, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I actually never even thought of the branding until I saw their announcement video into the LCS. Because that's when it clicked for me. Like that's when I believed that, oh wow, they're actually trying to lean into this. Because before I never really I didn't really think too much of it, but it seemed like, and kind of based on the interview, if I remember correctly, that you did, Travis, it seemed like they were trying to lean into the brand heavily.
Yeah.
And to go back to content, so I think that regardless of regardless of the players, I think how you frame the content is really what's important. So it based on like what types of videos are they going to do? Like, oh, maybe these are like this player's least favorite junglers or blah blah blah. I don't know like necessarily what angles they want to take, but I feel like a even if you have quieter players, you can try to frame the content itself in a way that lends itself to the branding.
Yeah,
And
like you could
that's gonna
have them. You could release photos of them all doing evil geniusy things, like looking at a whiteboard with like evil genius plans on it and stuff like that, without needing them to go out and be like, "Here's my evil genius plan for how we're gonna beat TSM. They suck." You know. So I hear you there.
and also just like what is the point of the video, right? So like if people are watching, if I go to like TSM or like 100 Thieves or C9, right? Like I or Golden Guardians with the anime talk, or C9, they just did like the voice dubbing, right? Like all the content is framed in a specific way. Where for example, the C9 video where they were doing English dubs of anime with the players, and the players clearly are not super extroverted, but that's still an interesting video because they frame the content in a way to make it interesting. And I think that evil geniuses can do that, and in a way to make it brand friendly for them, like with their theme. And since their theme is evil geniuses, I bet there's I mean like if I hope they're paying someone for ideas, but like I feel like they have a lot of potential to come up with interesting narratives or content framed in ways that aren't just like, oh, look at us do this challenge, right?
Yeah.
So that's my point. Is I think that the brand itself, like the evil geniuses, the staff and all of them, they're definitely going to have to put in the work. But if they do, and it seems like they do want to lean into this, that they will, especially if they win, they'll take over the league. Like their fan base will be, if they win 2 splits in a row, like I think their fan base will be rapidly crazy.
So I'm seeing Resident Sleepers in the chat, which is not anything to you, caller, but it does mean we've been on this for a little bit. So I'll end this by saying 2 things. One, I said weeks ago on the show that I thought that I was really impressed with their introduction video because it was like short and sweet and to the point, and I guess no pun intended, and didn't have like it was very different from what we'd seen teams do in the past, where it's like, hi, I'm the team owner. Let me explain to you the story and our ethos. It just like in a very short period of time really explained to you what the organization was about. The other thing is I had a conversation at All Stars with somebody from another team who will remain nameless, who said, you know, I feel like if EG is doing all this shit talking, but if they go out and just flop, everyone will flame them. The thing is, like, at least then people will be flaming them. Like, how many people talk about FlyQuest when they lose? You know?
Nobody.
So,
Snickers.
So I feel like it's
Turtle.
a good thing they got going. Anyway, Ventus, anything you want to say as we move on to the next caller?
Yes, actually. So last year, my mom had cancer, and unfortunately, she passed away around this time.
Hear that.
Yeah, it's fine. And it was actually this show. I would listen to this show all the time in the chemo, like in the waiting room, and it really helped me get through a lot of rough times. So anytime you guys are thinking like, oh, we're just doing Hotline League, it's like a whatever show, like I think that the impact that you guys have on people is probably bigger than you would expect.
Hey, I appreciate that a lot, and it does help keep things in perspective when I'm complaining about Skype and random stuff
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
I super appreciate that. It's gonna make me and Mark feel very conflicted because we really enjoy that this is just a whatever show. But now you've given us that, we can't think of this as a whatever show. So really, you've cursed us with a feeling of obligation and responsibility to try to make the show better.
I really like, but yeah, I love that because at the end of the day, everybody at some walk of life is enjoying this and are part of a community, and I think that's something that we tend to forget often.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep the style this way, but it's good to keep in mind that people are actually listening to this.
No, but thank you, Ventus. That's really nice, and I'm sorry to hear.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you.
No, anytime. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Much love.
Have a good one. All right, let's take a quick break to talk about what, Mark? Just the segue.
It's just the segue is like heartfelt message.
I
from the
didn't
fans.
have like.
Time
Here's
to
the
plug
problem.
some
I did not have a great segue. I knew we needed to transition, and like, how do you segue?
Yes,
we need to do a plug. It's 9:30 already.
All right.
Go for it. Sorry.
Thank you, Ventus. But we couldn't do the show if it wasn't for our sponsors. Maybe that's a better segue. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
the
still
other people to be thinking in this equation.
still learning how to do this. Thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. They've been sponsors of the show for a little bit over a year now, and I just super appreciate all that. This week, we don't have it up yet, but this week we're going to be giving away another Alienware monitor on Twitter. And go follow my Twitter account at Travis Gafford and take a look, keep an eye out for that. We're going to be doing that because we're going to be doing a media day over the next 3 days. Brett and myself will be there, and we actually here's something I can, like, a very concrete thing I can thank them for. They actually helped us get another camera and another lens. So over the past year, we went from 1 camera to 2 cameras. Now we're gonna have 3 cameras. I don't think we need 4 cameras, but it's just Raz is very excited about this conversation. You're drawn in on the growth of the camera collection.
3 people to hold camera.
Yeah, actually, it's so funny you say that because Brun's like, Travis, we're gonna need to start bringing another person when we do 3 camera shoots. So it's just nice because it allows us to level up the content, and it's kind of nice whenever you can switch. So we're gonna try bringing a 3 camera setup to Media Day and perhaps do something a little bit more polished than we have done in the past. And it's things like Alienware helping us get to where we need to be that makes all this possible. So I know that after me doing Hotline League for so many episodes and shouting them out, maybe for a lot of you guys it gets kind of lost of just like, here's this week's Alienware ad. But I just continue to say that it is really incredible the support that they provide us and the things that we can do. And I really appreciate that. And keep an eye out for I think in collaboration with NVIDIA, we're going to be doing that giveaway of a G-Sync monitor. So keep an eye out on Twitter. If you're watching the VOD, there's a good chance it's already up on my Twitter. But if not, you can check it out as the week continues. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. Mark, you want to grab our next caller?
While he does that, you know what's another great brand in 2020? The rebranding of Golden Guardians. Boom!
Yeah, just GG now, we should say.
GG.
And I keep catching myself
Black
saying
gold.
GGS. And it should be GG. So, yeah, congratulations on the rebrand. Not that you were there before.
I have no context, but it's amazing.
Yeah, well, I'm
Beautiful.
glad for you. Is there any place where people could see the new look? I guess on your social channels, right?
So yeah.
Yeah, go on to Golden Guardians Twitter.
Okay, there you
Fantastic.
go.
And also the rebranding of Zion Spartan. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rebranding as Zion Spartan. I didn't hear anything about that.
Welcome to the show, Formentum. Who feels like it's time to enter? Sorry, I'm entranced by what appears to be an impending cat fight in the background of Mark's thing. That the 2 cats are there's a stare down.
That's the sofa.
Yeah.
Honestly,
the couch. Or
I love that the cats are part of the show.
Yeah. We
They
really
need to stay
need.
here.
It's so funny because we did a long time ago. People that might not be aware of this meme, but we did a Tidy Cats thing where we joked about about trying to pitch Tidy Cats for a sponsor, bring them into esports, and now I just feel like it's actually real. We do need a cat product sponsor because the cats are featured so predominantly in the show.
It's so
For
cute.
sure. Tidy Cats is about to hit you up in your DMs
Yeah,
now.
and I need
No,
to
they
get a
didn't
cat
respond. We did
emote made for sure.
we did a pretty serious campaign, and Tidy Cats didn't give us anything.
Yeah, they literally didn't
gotcha.
even reply to the tweet. So
Wow.
don't use Tidy Cats products, I guess is what I'm getting to. Unless they sponsor the show. In which case we can all start using their
We
products.
can all pitch in.
Momentum,
Gotcha.
where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Sumter, South Carolina.
Sumter, South Carolina.
But I am from Orange County.
Oh, okay. So from nearby.
Yep. But anyways, my topic that I came in here for was I was going to talk about how I am confident that Broxa and Dardoch are not at all going to be flops. And my reason being is that, I mean, we all define success by winning in League of Legends, right? And I feel like China, who is taking over, just provides such aggression. I mean, they've won 2 worlds back to back. I really actually thought they were going to win this worlds, even though everybody built into like the G2 hype. I wasn't really built into it. Maybe it's because I kind of hate EU. I'm not gonna lie. Like I hate the like I see the rivalry and I'm just like I don't want them to win. But
I heard
China.
Travis too. Anyway,
China, yeah, because Travis kept going against them. He was like, "Oh yeah, G2 isn't gonna win." But no, I actually think that with Broxa and Dardoch, they provide so much aggression, and I feel like all the North American teams that have won in North America have had that like extremely aggressive player. For example, when TSM went almost undefeated, they went 17-1 in the regular season before Hanser played Timo that one game, and they lost. They had an extremely aggressive jungler through Svenskeren, extremely aggressive top laner through Hanser. Team Liquid has won with Double Lift so many times. I mean, this guy is super aggressive. It's shown so much success and how confident he is in his play. I mean, other players like that. The reason why I feel like Cloud9 hasn't won in a while is also because back then, like when they actually did go on their streak of winning, they had extremely confident, aggressive players. But I feel like with Dardoch and Broxa, they're both very aggressive and confident players. I just could not see either of these two teams not being in playoffs with how good they are. And I know the platform's kind of changed now, so I think there's going to be like 8 teams in playoffs now. It's
For
kind of
summer.
weird.
I think
For
spring is
summer.
still 6.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Yeah. But I don't see either of these teams not making playoffs. I feel like if you can focus on Dardoch's aggression, I think TSM can definitely improve because they've needed an aggressive player for a long time now. Ever since they got rid of Svenskeren, they just haven't had the same success. Even I know Svenskeren had his lows, but they clearly had a higher success rate with Svenskeren. Every jungler since then, I mean, I guess you can argue that Arcadian's a little aggressive, but when you think of aggressive junglers like worldwide, does Arcadian really match up to these like actually aggressive junglers? I just think that with Dardoch coming in, this guy, we all know he's skilled. Okay, we all know his past issues, but he has had more of a, he has respected the players on TSM for such a long time, well, particularly Bjergsen, and I feel like there's going to be a difference this time. I know everybody builds into this hype, so like I'm just going to build into it. I'm really going to build into it. I know there's a chance it could be doomed, but I really feel like Dardoch will
Well, it
actually
sounds
make this
like
team way better.
your threshold here is you were like, oh, there's no way these teams don't make playoffs. I think it'd be hard for you to find somebody who doesn't place TSM and TL, especially TL, in the top 6 of the league going into spring. So
Yeah, I mean, the only people, on paper, TSM should definitely be there. I think there is kind of that Dardoch as well as new team factor that could always, things just don't work out. But on paper, they should definitely be there. So I think the question is more than playoffs, more like, will TL keep winning championships? And will TSM return to form where they were in the first 8 LCS or 10 LCS finals? You're in every LCS final, like So can they get back there with this roster? I think, even though they got there in spring, but
and I understand that a lot of people are saying Brox is like a side grade to Xmithy, but I actually do believe that this guy is an upgrade, and if they can make it work,
Well, first off,
will
they
be
have to
better
get him
for
to
their team.
America. That seems to be
Yeah,
their current conundrum.
I did read about that struggle.
We should be talking about Pobelter in the jungle. How do you think
That's
Pobelter is
true.
a side grade from Xmithy?
every jungle's going to work out.
Definitely not. I feel like Pobelter is, remember when High went to jungle?
Yeah.
I don't
We're
think
just
he was
joking. I
amazing
mean,
at jungle, but this guy,
I don't think
this
anyone
guy
has
had
high
shot.
expectations for Pob since it's a last minute lane swap. But
Well, I hope they figure out things with Broxa. Now, as far as Worlds goes, I remember last week you guys had a caller that said that we're going to be exactly the same at Worlds. I think that with these upgrades, we will have a higher chance of making it out of groups, but I mean, I'm just so like sad because I feel like China is just too good right now. Honestly.
well, I don't want to open up the world's talk yet. So I think let's focus it on Broxa and on Dardoch. So one, do we think TSM will be stronger with their roster going into this year, and majority of that being Dardoch? And I feel like we're gonna give. Let me predict what Raz and Mark say. Well, if Dardoch doesn't, obviously there's a lot of attitude stuff in the past, but he's a good player. So if they can just work out the Dardoch attitude issues, TSM will be a lot stronger. Great.
Now I don't need to talk. You already
There
done
we
it.
go.
Okay, great. So we got that down. The show's going kind of long. So
I got you. Yeah, I'm not trying to extend the topic.
No, it's fine.
I'll give you my real take, real quick on both these guys. I think Team Liquid will take a step back, but I don't think it'll necessarily be Brox's fault. I feel like after having 2 years of dominance, and they had some close calls in the last year too, where they almost lost to TSM in spring. They could have lost to C9 in summer. They were down a game, I believe it was. So I think they've had some close calls, and I think whether it's due to Broxa or due to just time working against them and every empire ends kind of thing, at some point this year they'll lose in a final or not make it or something. I think it's beginning to come to an end, but like at the same time, I can't say that based off anything other than feeling, because on paper, Team Liquid's still the best team.
Yeah.
I got you. I mean, I guess I can't really disagree with that. I mean, I really think that if anybody was to overthrow him, it'd be TSM, because I don't see Cloud9 doing too great this year. So
Cloud9 sleeper is always good, and Licorice, Niski, Blabber is a pretty solid top side of the map core in my opinion. And Sven and Vulcan, they're not bad. So I think like I'm kind of with you. I think they're more of a sleeper pick to do it. TSM is really volatile, just with one, they looked really good in spring and pretty bad in summer. Or not pretty bad, but not nearly the same team in summer.
I think they were pretty bad. I think you can say that.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on how much of a factor Kabe is, and if he can really be the carry that Doublelift was 2 years ago, or I guess at this point 3 years ago, that Sven never ended up being when he came in to replace him. I think they need that level of performance almost out of Kabe to take down Team Liquid, like without Team Liquid kind of collapsing on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think it's kind of a little less on both junglers in that instance, though. Dardoch does have pretty high explosive playmaking potential. So.
Raz, do you have a take on any of this?
Yeah, I'm a boring person. I always look.
Great to have you on the show, Raz.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm always the type of person that when I look at the roster on paper, I think the only roster that I look at and say that I have high expectations for is Golden Guardians, and mostly no, honestly, like Team Liquid. Team Liquid, for sure. I don't think the core of how they play the game is going to change. It's more of the constant discussion of, is Broxa gonna make them a stronger team internationally, and that's really just down to whether they can develop throughout the entire season. So I don't know. I think every team is more so like a to be decided. Like probably the easiest conversation to have is like Evil Geniuses that has like Svenskeren, Jizuke, Bang, and Zazel. What the hell does that team even look like, right? People either have them really high on the tables or
Yeah.
like as an average team. So I
Mhm.
think the only team that I'm willing to take a chance on would be Team Liquid, and then everything else is kind of we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just I feel like everybody is so afraid to build into hype because they're like, oh, they're gonna let us down. They're gonna do this. Well, I've been drinking, and I'm at this point. I'm like, I want to build into hype so hard.
Yeah.
I heard you
Is
crack
this
open your
drinking
can.
stream, Travis?
Oh yeah, I did crack open another can earlier, but yeah, I like honestly, I've been a fan of TSM for a long time. I know Twitch chat's about to hate me for that, but like, I even Broxa, like I feel like yeah, you guys should be hyped to get Broxa, even if you think it's a side grade. Like this could be fun. This could make the like just watching them more exciting. And I feel like watching TSM with Dardock is gonna be super exciting. So
That's true.
I'm more than willing to build into the hype, even if it fails me. Because yes, I'll be sad at the end of the day if they get wrecked, but if they
I will
win, it's
say-
gonna be all the better.
You're right. There's no way TSM is boring this year.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
No, 100%. I mean, I absolutely, it's great. I don't need to say this too many times. I've said it a lot, but like, I love Dardock coming back into the scene. He makes it so interesting. It's great. I have an interview with him tomorrow. Parth messaged me and he's like, hey, can you be nice to him in the interview? Cause, his first interview in a while. So, but I think it's going to be fun. Meanwhile, by the way,
That's
Jack is in
exciting.
the chat right now answering C9 store merch questions, which I find, I'm happy that this community show could bring everyone together and allow people the chance to
We have
ask
we have an
questions.
affiliate thing, right? Like everyone who goes from our Twitch chat to the store from Jack, we get a percent of. Right?
No, we don't have that. Unfortunately, we don't take any money from teams.
Oh, can we mute that then until we get affiliate
Get
links?
your
from each team?
advertising out of here, Cloud9. Either way, Fomentum, thank you so much for the call. Or it's Fomentum, sorry. Right?
Fomentum, yeah. No, thank you guys so much. I'm glad to be on here. By the way, shout out to Steve because I honestly feel like Team Liquid has the best branding. So I'm just gonna leave that there. All right. Hope you guys have a great night.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. Mark, you want to grab the next caller?
Yeah.
By the way, as Mark is grabbing the next caller, I want to, we're going to do a bounty. This is normally, I wait for the bounties at the end of the stream, but we're starting, let's see, here we go. We're starting something called Stream Raiders, which I was testing before the start of the show. Technically I have to change the category of the show, I guess.
Yeah,
But
Travis doesn't wait when it comes down
well,
to
so the
money.
whole way this thing
Give
works
him money
is
now.
no, the whole way it works is everybody like we start this game that we play with the viewers, and at the end of the show, we'll run the mission. But you want to go to streamcaptain.com, I believe is what it is. Yeah, streamcaptain.com, and you can join my little match that'll be happening. We're gonna run this at the end of the stream. At the end of the show. So you go and you play, and then I lead like an army of the Twitch chat army together in this game, and we all take on something in a mission. So hang on, I'll start the next mission, and then we'll get into it. But we have a caller right now. Pipiopi, remind me where you're calling from.
Sawtell National.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right around the corner.
I'm back.
Yeah,
Yeah. McDonald's.
you should
Yep.
give less of your that's a very specific address.
Well, I can't live at the actual McDonald's, so.
Yeah. Okay. Give me
Hello?
give me your take.
Yeah. So my take is I wanted to talk about the fact they removed from the LCS.
They removed. Sorry, we lost you for a second, right?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the championship point system.
Oh, the championship point,
And-
like the qualifier, the circuit point system, or not circuit, but for the system for Worlds.
Championship points, he said.
For the playoffs, yeah, I think that's generally a good idea, but I think it was pretty lazy. My prediction's that it's going to cause some major repercussions with player mentality, quality of games, specifically audience viewership, especially in the spring split. and some I have some points on how to kind of improve it instead of just completely removing it. So I wanted to talk about that and just kind of see what you guys think at first, and then I can kind of go off on my points if you need me to.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to hear him because I have my own thoughts. So
All right. So yeah, I think every year we see the team records start to separate about 2 to 3 weeks in. There's a couple of top teams like 11-1 type of thing, Team Liquid, and then there's people knocking on the top door, 9-4. There's TSM, C9, usually like right on their heels, and then there's everyone else who's generally stuck at like 2-14, 6-7. So with the removal of championship points, they didn't actually add in any other in spring. So what we have now is for those of you guys watching, there's really no other incentive other than going to MSI for spring that they have for players. So I just think this is going to be it's basically going to cause another preseason. It's going to cause a lot of coaches to just basically focus on summer split instead. Let's be honest, like there's no Cinderella story here. There's half the teams in the LCS are not designed to win spring split. That's just not going to happen. So a lot of people have been banking on these points in order to get some kind of incentive going into summer in order to make it to Worlds. And now you basically just have, a best of 5 second seed in spring who sneezes at the last second, so to speak, loses the game 5, and basically has nothing to show for it going into summer split. So I just think it was a lazy removal of the point system. And by not having incentive to win, these bottom teams are going to basically have these coaching staff basically just focusing on summer and possibly, I mean, Raz can maybe talk about this a little bit, but possibly have academy players playing in the LCS towards the spring in order to just get them play time and just basically focus for Worlds. So it's just going to make viewership just kind of a joke going into
Viewership is going to be a joke.
4 or 5 minutes.
Can you expand on that? Is like you think viewership is going to be bad this split? Would you say it's going to be like the worst ever? Because you say a joke, which is a strong statement.
I think so. So Riot focused on viewership this year. Right? So they have Friday through Monday games. They have a Monday night game. They have the same weekend games. And now they're just basically making it where you're going to have 1 or 2 teams that are trying super hard to win to win the spring split, and then you have maybe half the team LCS that are focusing maybe on summer, and it's just not going to it's just not going to average up to the same goals that all the teams have to win. In the past, with championship points, you'd have the lower half of the LCS bracket. Maybe they can make it to playoffs. Maybe they can snag some points going into summer, and maybe they can do well. But now, I think the biggest misconception is that playing more league games will always translate to better play, and I think that these players sacrifice everything. They sacrifice their relationships, their family time. They sacrifice everything, and I just think that if the best that they can do is if they lose a best of 5 against the best team in NA going into spring, and they get nothing for it to show for summer, they're just not gonna focus on that as much. They're still gonna try super hard to win, but we're just not going to see the same level of play as we see in other splits because they're really trying to get these points to focus on.
Sure. So you don't think there's enough incentives?
There's just not enough incentive. So I think for viewership, I'm going to be watching Team Liquid versus I'm sorry to throw. I'm not going to throw out any names here, but Team Liquid towards somebody else that is not going to. They're trying for playoffs. But they're not going to be a team that is really trying to win, and it's just going to be maybe they're going to throw out Teemo Mid. Maybe they're going to throw out, they're going to start working on their play style for summer.
I don't think we're going to see.
Can I just
Teemo
get in
mid.
here?
Yeah,
What's going on?
I don't think
How
we're going to see.
okay.
I don't think we're going to see Teemo mid. But go ahead.
No. Okay,
Raz.
that's
Wait, let me just go right from the get-go and challenge the premise. The premise that teams will not be competitive. Which team do you look at right now in the LCS and say that they have no chance of winning?
No,
Honest question. The perspective of them that they're not going to be coming in aiming to be the best. Because every team that I see here, you can make the case and you can say that they're not as good or can't be as good by the end of the spring split. But Immortals has Ixmithi and Soaz, and you're like, okay, well, like you can talk about the history of, or like the recency of Soaz, but those acquisitions aren't them saying, well, we're not going to be trying for the spring split. Like we're not aiming to try and get the chip. No, those are big name players. I can go to 100 Thieves with Someday, and Cloud9 with Licorice and Sven, like CLG with Crown and Ruin. Like all these teams have a lot of potential, and
Absolutely.
it really is dependent on basically the road to the playoffs, because the playoffs that from the LCS last time around literally had Team Liquid almost lose in both the semifinals and the finals. Like those, like that's the reality.
But I don't think Pipiopi is saying that the rosters aren't built to win. He's saying that in spring people will be optimizing for things that are not first place necessarily.
Well, yeah, I think also, I mean, I think he was talking about Golden Guardians. We can all agree to the only team that's
Hey,
what?
I love how he started to apologize preemptively. Raz had an expression. He's like, I'm not going to say any team. Never mind.
But like to Pipiopi's point, maybe everyone comes into the start of the season with this mindset, and then they get to
Exactly.
week 4, week 5, and they're like 2-8, and it's like, okay, well, we're doomed for spring. And so to his point, I can see that concern, but that's assuming the absolute worst out of these teams. And if you're already in the mindset that you're assuming the worst out of them, which sometimes it is true, I'm not saying it's totally wrong to assume the worst, but those are teams that, and those are situations that weren't ever really going to matter in summer anyways, from my perspective. You know, like if there's a team who's 8th or 7th in spring and you're telling them their incentive is to push for playoffs, to maybe get championship points, to maybe seed into the first round of the gauntlet, to then go lose to somebody else, you know, like that's me assuming the worst from this team. It's not really any better of a, you know, proposition for what these championship points are doing. If you're going to just start assuming that teams don't give a shit the soonest that something isn't going to happen.
We also see teams experiment in spring when they start losing anyway, right? Like every split,
even
you
when
see,
there were championship points.
Yeah, even when there were championship points, it was like halfway through, you see a team, wow, they're really struggling, like 100 Thieves last year, for instance, or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, now they're going to make some swaps with Academy, or they're going to try to trade for a player. Like, that stuff already happens. I just, the other thing is, it's going to be hard from a team morale perspective to walk in the room and be like, guys, fuck it for the next couple of weeks. Just lose some games. You know, we're going to try all this weird shit. We're going to experiment. We're going to give people, we're going to try swapping or whatever. Like, I think every team will try hard because it's going to be difficult on the morale situation if you don't.
So, yeah, I'm with you. I think, oh, sorry, Raz, I saw your hands go up.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I was just, the only point that I was going to make was that I think the agreeable point is the fact that there will be more planning into summer split because of the point that you had been making. Like championship point for spring, I think is important, and I think it's an overreaction for a lot of people that think that, hey, we shouldn't be putting value into the spring split, because a lot of the times the team that gets the most championship points isn't necessarily the best team at the time, and I think that context a lot of the time should be fleshed out. But to the point about people taking spring split off or not caring near the like middle point of the spring split, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Especially if there is a case where it starts happening, the fans will know. They will throw anything like fecal matter, as you would already see from like Reddit whenever the Russian team plays without a real roster. If people know what reference I'm making. So like there are case matters where that has happened. The fans make a point of it, and then the league steps in. I think it's more important to just wait and let the teams come out and go with those decisions, and then flame it when it happens. Because I literally do not think any franchise team will go into the spring split and try to not be competitive or not fix it when they're in the middle portions of the split to be competitive.
So real quick, Jack in
so-
chat said championship points sent garbage teams to worlds. There, I said it. Will he name drop? Because I think there's one that everyone's thinking about.
Name drop.
Jack is super biased about this change because Jack is so happy to not have to go through the gauntlet again. Like he's right now, Jack is just like, thank God, get championship points out of there, get rid of the gauntlet. He's not happy.
Shouldn't he want the gauntlet? He's the king of the gauntlet.
I mean,
That's true.
do you think that Jack enjoys going through the gauntlet every year? I know it's
Can you
great, makes for
imagine if they
great
missed
content
Worlds
and
for the
drama
first
for his
time?
team, but he's sitting over there sweating, just being like, "Fucking please."
The first time in 4 years, 5 years since C9 doesn't make Worlds, first time they don't have a gauntlet. What if that happens?
Then
Dun dun dun.
yeah, I don't know.
So the last thing I'm going to say, boys, is I'm not saying that people aren't going to be competitive. Every single team is going to try the hardest they can to win.
You just said that. Wait a minute.
The
Okay,
problem.
continue.
So the
Continue.
problem is that the X factor here is that you always have hunger to win, and if you don't have that last little bit of hunger to win to get any kind of incentive, there's a subconscious kind of thing going on where you're not trying to lose the game, obviously, but every game depends on like a half a second reaction. It starts to actually matter.
I'll take this in another direction that I think is a better
Wait,
point.
can I say something really quickly though? Because I just think it's very funny that Pipiopi went from like, oh, they just need that extra incentive to just push a little harder. He says that after saying, Pipiopi, you say that after saying viewership is going to be garbage this split, right? Like you're saying there's this tiny little bit that we need to get us across the finish line.
Well, that's where I was actually going to
different
go.
issue here.
Oh, it's funny. So you just
that's what I
okay.
think.
I'm interested, Mark.
Yeah, so this is, I think, the actual better point is like fan perception. Like, I don't think the points are going to sway people too much. Like these teams that you're talking about losing motivation through this like slightly lacking incentive, those teams sucked probably anyways, you know? And if they couldn't get their shit together to qualify through this 8-team summer playoff system that we're going to have now, then they were probably dog shit anyways. Okay. So I don't really have any love lost for them, but I do agree about your point about how fans might perceive spring split and the concern there that they'll stop caring once they think it doesn't matter. Because for fans, you know, they're not really active participants. Perception is reality. If they think it's meaningless, they're not going to watch. Which I think is actually the most important point in this to why viewership would be low is not because the players don't care, but because fans can construct this narrative in their head that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Jack,
I want to
go
piggyback
ahead,
off
Russ.
that and just say that I think playoff bracket, the way they've changed it, like having like these things, for me, empower the games and make them more meaningful. And then the spring split, a lot of the times regular season in any sport can drag on, feel meaningless until the playoffs themselves. If you take the championship points away from it, you better have something like
like an international event. I think
inject.
so. One
And so, like, I agree with that.
two things, Jack.
And
After
Gauntlet, last point, Gauntlet is hype as hell.
Gauntlet is
So,
hype
like,
as hell.
yeah.
I'm sad it won't exist. Jack in chat backtracked after saying he wouldn't name which teams were sent to Worlds, and he said, "Fine, I'll say it. CLG and 100T sent garbage teams to Worlds 5 points." So there you go. And then
Someone take a little screenshot of that and put it on Twitter for some retweets.
or no. Use the
CLG
clip.
At
Clip-
100 Thieves.
Clip this, please, so that we can at least get some impressions off of this thing. No, but the counterpoint to what you guys are saying is like you guys never hyped championship points and spring split on the broadcast. It was never like, well, golly gee, this 3rd and 4th place match. But like to the extent that even last year you took, I shouldn't say you, but Riot took 3rd and 4th place. I mean, it was you whenever you were talking about hyping, but in this, the Riot removed the 3rd and 4th place match from the spring split. And the most thing, or the biggest thing that happened was like the fans were a little disappointed that they only got one match to watch in person. It wasn't like, but where's the drama for who gets higher ranking and points with between 3rd and 4th? Like, I just don't feel like fans ever perceived spring split as like this battle for points in the same way that like we all like to pretend that it was. It always felt like who's going to win, who's going to MSI,
I mean,
and that's going to be there.
We tried to hype points a little bit, but it always felt weird to spend significant time on that when, oh, by the way, this other team just beat them. You know, like the team that gets knocked out in 6, it's like, great, you got, I think it was like 10 championship points, which is not very hyped to begin with. And then like, by the way, we also need to talk about the fact that they just lost and there's this other team that just won. And so like, it always feels hard to talk about championship points in a hype way. My God, they just lost and got a bunch.
Danon in the chat, Danon, former GM of C9, now GM over at GG, says most players and staff don't even remember off the top of their head how many points they got for spring. So like it's just a testament to how ultimately inconsequential that was. Who's tapping? Somebody Raz, don't tap. Oh, we lost him. His mic is completely out. And instead we're getting this painful... Oh, he's back. There's definitely a short in your cable. It's fine.
Yeah, when you lean forward, it was doomed.
We're almost done.
worry.
Sorry, what were you going
I'm
to say,
leaning
Raz? And then let's wrap up the call.
I was just about to make a small critique to North America in general and make the comparison to LPL, where the games that get the large stadium is the Gauntlet series and the finals, and the third and fourth place matches in the usual studio. And then in North America, I think the most hype series are usually that. And then so yeah, I agree. I think the championship point math is like a fun discussion for the third, fourth place match. And then the Gauntlet should just be left as it is because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, right, and I think that's ultimately where I agree with Pipiopi the most. Is like, it's a fun, for the most part, it's a fun extra thing to add some stuff to the league. And to his point, it's not there anymore. You know, me and Crumbs can't sit there and say, oh, well, at least they got this many points. So now when they need to do this to get this thing to happen, it's just
viewership in the trash can without those points or moments.
I mean, yeah.
Pipiopi,
I don't want to overstate how important they were. But...
Pipiopi, anything you want to say as we move on to the next caller?
So the last part of my call, I actually wanted to just really quickly, like 1 minute. I just wanted to say, I did, the whole point of my call was actually to say that I didn't want championship points to be the same as they were. I just wanted to say how they defined the first, second, third world seed. And I just wanted to say, just really quick, I want the first world seed to be the team that wins Summer Split. That's not going to change. But I want the second world seed to be the team that places second in Summer Split, but only if they contain more championship points than the third seed. And you can only redeem championship points if you placed in the top 4 in spring, as well as the top 4 in summer. So incentivize the top 4 players, the top 4 teams in summer and also spring. If the third place team also actually has higher championship points than the second place team somehow, then they have to play one more best of 5 after the summer finals going into Worlds to play one more best of 5 to determine if the second and third seed should be swapped. I think consistency and knowledge of your opponent are the two best things that you need to have going into Worlds. If you can beat the third place team in the summer, but you lose to them again in a rematch,
Sure.
It's possible you should not be the second.
I hear what you're saying. I think also sometimes you need to format that's at least simple enough to explain to the fans. And I think when you start getting into those mind games of like, oh, this team placed here, but then here, or they need this to this, I just think it can get a little complicated. And I think at a certain point,
he's trying to make TSM go to Worlds. This is literally what's happening here. We need to construct a system for TSM.
PPOV, thank you.
All right, yeah, I tried. All right, thanks, guys.
Love you, brother.
Harrison always goes.
I love you.
All right.
He's trying to construct the system. You got to stop them while they're hot, Travis.
By the way, we're still doing our Stream Raiders bounty right now, and right now we have how many people? Oh, my browser just refreshed. We have, I think, 27 people in this. If you want to join up on our big fight that we're going to do at the end of the show, go to streamcaptain.com, I believe it was. I'm going to put it in the chat. And if you are competing or you are doing this, I think every 5 minutes you can add more units to the board. So do that. Anyway, we've got Sweet Gums here. Hi, Raz. We got Sweet Gums here. Sweet Gums, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Newark, New Jersey, home of the Jersey Devils and Dignitas.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
I love that intro.
I think
That was a good
Dignitas,
intro.
the home of Dignitas, maybe the original home of Dignitas was somewhere in the UK, but now they're there.
Now they're in Jersey.
Yeah. Are you a Dig
Odie's-
fan?
I'm not. God, no.
Okay. Well, you proudly lauded their location in your city, so it's funny that you're not a fan of them. But what do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I'm just calling in to say that the LCS can benefit from a point-based system similar to something that Formula One uses, where LCS and Academy are rewarded points based on wins, to incentivize investing in Academy talent. And it's perfect that, Raz is here. So it's cool.
This is the second time this week somebody's tried to make a Formula One comparison with LCS, with esports. Because this week, and I literally never talk about Formula One, but this week I was talking about how atrocious the schedule is for Overwatch League, where you have to travel a shit ton depending on the teams. And somebody was like, "Well, in F1 they have to travel a lot."
Can you give a rough idea, Sweetgums, of how this Formula One idea would be applied to League, just so we can get into it a little bit?
Right. So basically in Formula One, they reward points to teams based on race standing. So each season has 2 championships going at the same time, one for teams and one for drivers, right? So each team has 2 drivers, similarly to how the LCS does it with the Academy team and the main roster. And based on where those drivers are placed in the race, they're giving points. At the end of the season, each team adds up both drivers' points, and the team with the most points wins the constructors championship, which is basically like the team championship, and the driver with the most points wins the drivers championships. So I think that because LCS orgs effectively have 2 teams, there's an issue where one of them has stakes. The LCS team, is fighting to go to Worlds, MSI, and the Academy teams are just fighting for nothing. There's no stakes. But I feel like adding a point-based system, maybe giving a certain amount of points to every win that the LCS team gets and every win that the Academy team gets, I feel like
But this would almost be like a Rookie of the Year type award. It sounds like, because it's not like there's any kind of tournament.
He's trying to make my LCS team lose if I lose. Is what's happening now.
Like at the end of the year, the team with the most points, you take both the LCS team and the Academy team's points, and the team with the most points at the end of the year gets a prize incentive, because that's the only way I can see.
Oh, like money, not
correct.
Worlds or anything. This does not have anything to do with kind of Worlds.
So for example, Cloud9, right? They're a team that constantly makes it to finals, and yet they don't win anything, right? And their LCS team, however, performs really well every single.
You mean their
split,
Academy team?
Their Academy team, yes. Every single split, every single year, their Academy team, performs well. So maybe they don't win spring, they don't win summer, but they accumulate enough points for their LCS team and Academy team that at the end of the year, they're the org of the year or something, and they win a prize, trophy, and money.
I'm actually super behind this. This sounds cool.
Yeah.
And it would give people a reason to look at Academy too, because you could check it like on the broadcast. You could be like, all right, well, Golden Guardians LCS team continues to be shit, but that Academy team is killing it. They're climbing up the rankings. Coach Raz is making it happen. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I thought you were leading into like, and then that team will go to Worlds, or like,
that's what I thought he was going to say.
Because like again, in F1 they have 2 championships going on at the same time, one for the drivers and one for the teams. So this system would be one for the spring split, the summer split stays the same. Academy championships is the same. However, at the end of the year, an org is presented with that prize. So this is completely separate.
I will say this: I think an end of a year award is a great idea, like a red carpet event, something that will grab the viewer's attention because it happens in the LPL. And
you're talking about an award show. This is separate.
Yeah, but like I just think that awards in general should be.
Well, we've got the Gafford Esports Awards that are happening this Sunday.
A wonderful one. It's
people like self congratulation.
Yeah.
But my point is, I just don't think like that's not the purpose of Academy. I think people look at Academy and say like, no, they should be winning games, or they should have the most competitive, or they should have all new players. I was like,
okay, but if the purpose is not to win and for it to have a legitimate competition, then why are we even broadcasting these games in the first place?
Well, no, okay. That it's not. You're putting out extremes here. It's either extremely competitive and it matters, and that's where you win. Like,
well, but he's not suggesting something like Sweetgums is not suggesting an incredible. It's just a prize incentive. It's not like it.
Yeah, the prize.
Like
I think that's fine.
In theory, you can't make the incentive so much that it's worth putting money into Academy solely for winning, right?
Exactly.
Because if you put in like $200,000 or something, which doesn't sound that extreme, and I know based off Academy salaries, it's really not that crazy amount, but that's still enough that people would maybe sign a better player to maybe win if they were close to winning or something, if they thought they had a really good academy team. But if it's like an extra $50,000 to the org and a cute trophy and like a little ceremony thing, or I don't see why not, because that shouldn't be enough to make people really change their approach to academy. That's not significant enough, I wouldn't think.
And then you could do a you could do some sort of, you could even get the viewers involved in this by creating some sort of system, like a pick'em type system or something, where it's really simple. You get some sort of incentive or IP or Blue Essence or whatever if you pick the right team that you think has like cohesively the best academy roster and LCS roster or something. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with this.
Right.
Dude, Sweet Gums, most of the ideas that for people that call into the show are garbage, but this one is awesome. Like I've actually
I spent a lot of time thinking about this after watching the Netflix show.
the F1 Netflix show?
Yeah, the Formula One show that they had, I think last year, Drive to Survive, got me into F1, and I really liked the format that they were using. So I figured, that's something that League can benefit from.
Yeah,
And he just gave me a good recommendation on Netflix. All right, this guy.
Yes, sir.
What can't he do?
Sweet Gums killing it tonight. No, I mean, I think this is really good, and I wonder if it's the type of thing where I hope it can transcend this call and become a bit of a conversation. I wonder if, I think I'm interviewing, so I think we're having Greeley on, he's either going to be on Hotline League or I'm going to interview him. I'm talking to them about trying to schedule something with him over the next couple of weeks. So if he calls into Hotline League, Sweet Gums, you should totally call in and have the conversation with him about it, because I think it'd be fun to see you pitch this to him directly.
Well, and I also like it because sorry to cut you off. I was gonna say I like it because it's so simple. Like it doesn't take any extra like planning or scheduling or anything. It's just like let's just slap some numbers together and out pops a number that hopefully makes everything a little bit more interesting.
Yeah,
and I think that's exactly the kind of stuff that is cheap and easy to do.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for the call, Sweet Gums. Anything you want to say before we end the show?
Yeah, I just want to shout out Dardock. Good luck, bro. I believe in you.
Very good. Well, thank you so much.
That's a real fan right there.
All right. Mark, you have anything you want to shout out here? Plug at the end?
Wait, that's the end?
Yeah, that's our last caller.
Oh,
yeah,
we usually end the show around 10. We're a little bit late because we started late.
Yeah,
but...
yeah. There was one other guy, but he did DC it. I don't know what happened to him.
Go ahead though, Mark. What do you want to shout out?
No shout outs.
Well, I'll shout it for you. Mark is going to be at the Gafford Esports Awards this Sunday. You can see him on air. Raz, if you want to go, you're welcome to. We've got extra slots in the audience so you can message me.
Wait, where is this? Are you? What the hell?
It's
Isn't this
Mid Wilshire. It's in LA.
Okay. I recorded something with Jat today.
Jat, not Jack.
Jat.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it, but it would be very nice if I could just say what it is, because it's not that cool.
You're a great hype man.
Jackie and Whipley in the chat being said that I'm not inviting to this. If the people that are coming will be on the stream. So if you Riot folks want to be on air during this, then that's fine. But yeah. Okay, so you record something with chat. Is that the only thing you're going to say?
Yeah, it should be out this week, he said, towards the end of this week.
Okay. Raz?
Hats off to Golden Guardians and its rebranding. 2020 is going to be an amazing year. 14 days in, already a success. So yeah, that's it for me.
For me, this Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, we're going to go live on this channel with the Gafford Esports Awards. We're working on them right now. You're going to see some guest appearances. I've already leaked Mark is going to be one of them. Raz, if he decides to come hang out. I know he's not very social, but maybe
I'm coming.
You are coming.
You just have to invite me. You just sprung this on me.
I mean, we talked about this. You and I had a conversation in Berlin where you're like, I like to stay in.
That is true.
You flamed an arrow, but you're at heart. You're also in an arrow.
That is true.
We're all an arrow at heart. Anyway,
there can only be one an arrow in a room.
The Gaffies will be happening. We did it last year. It is the most legit League of Legends award show in North America, and it's very fun. So go check it out.
Can I have one last statement out there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I've been watching. I've been reading the Reddit and Twitter comments. All those people saying, or at least using the number 10 for one reason or another.
Oh, 10th place.
I've saved it. I've bookmarked it. I will come for you in a month's
So
time.
when Golden Guardians gets 9th, he's gonna drag you for predicting
9,
10th.
10, it's coming. My timeline will be hate.
I'll probably give you a pretty good clip next week when I do power rankings. So get ready to clip that one too.
Oh, Mark's placing you
So
guys
help me
10th.
God, Mark, if we're going to be in the same room and you don't say anything favorably.
I'll release it after the Gaffies.
All right.
So everybody stay tuned for the Gaffies this Sunday at 5:30 Pacific. We're going to go live. It's going to be fun. We're going to be doing some really stupid stuff. That's the show. Thanks to Raz for making time for this. So I had to track him down today, and he was able to make it. So I really appreciate it.
That's true.
Stick around. I'm going to finish this bounty up, and then that'll be the show. But thanks everyone for watching. See you next week.